Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
More stringent building restrictions coming for Jamaicans as flooding causes millions of dollars in damage. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Wednesday, May 16. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. The Jamaica government is trying to assess the full impact of damage across the island after heavy rains wreaked havoc over the past few days. But even before that is complete, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is warning that where Jamaicans build from now on will be under closer scrutiny. Houses, roads, bridges and other infrastructure have been damaged by floodwaters, and farmers are also counting their losses as crops have been submerged under the rising waters. Amid the downpour on Tuesday, the Fire Brigade and Defence Force had to rescue more than 30 people after floodwaters swept into their communities. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness visited some of the affected areas to get a first-hand look at the damage, and he warned that given the impact these and other recent floods have had on the country, it cannot be business as usual going forward.
It is clear that we are experiencing weather events of greater intensity and with greater frequency than before, and it is indeed putting a strain, if not a challenge, on the existing infrastructure. There is already done a survey, a plan for the master drainage plan for Jamaica. And that has to now be fast-tracked in terms of how we implement it. But I think there are greater issues. Where people choose to live will now have to take on greater scrutiny. Informal settlement, haphazard settlement, those things cannot be allowed to continue in our future. The cost of it is just too much. And it's not just the cost in the infrastructure and the cost in housing, but there's the cost in lives.
Meantime, local government minister Desmond McKenzie said 175 million Jamaica dollars has been made available to municipal corporations to be spent in the parishes of Clarendon, Manchester, Portland, St. Elizabeth, St. Thomas and Westmoreland. But arrangements are being made to provide additional funds to the parish of St. Anne, as sections of that parish have also been severely affected by flooding. He said his ministry is working closely with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to ensure assistance is provided to people who have been affected by the inclement weather. So far, 11 shelters have been activated in the central parishes of Clarendon and St. Catherine. While the residents of Clarendon are thankful that no lives have been lost, they're concerned about loss of livelihood. We get more in this report from Nika Lewis of CVM News.
Hope is what so many of these folks in Clarendon are losing as the water levels continue to rise with more flood rains. They scurried to watch the murky flow violently pushing past them under the Maypen Bridge. Just last month, scores of Clarendon residents were left salvaging their homes and wares. In Four Paths, it was more of the same. Homes, churches, roadways underwater. No lives lost, but livelihood threatened. Onlookers opined.
Because if rain continue to fall, I think both bridges might eventually go.
Look, we reform the country and set back the thing the way the thing was set. We don't have a sewer system in our country. We're a contractor. We can build a sewer system for Jamaica. We can build a country, a way to do it. Stop the bent on government. Let us build back Jamaica.
The Prime Minister toured the affected areas in the last disaster, which left some residents in the parish feeling left out and declaring their disappointment in the way the tour was handled. The government had suggested the drains in the country need to be cleaned, but a new trough would not spare much time between talking and doing. Meanwhile, residents who live in the affected sections of the parish continue to hope that the weather will change soon for the better and their circumstances with it.
In other news, the Caribbean Court of Justice Judge Justice Adrian Saunders says after 12 years, it is a little surprising that the court's original jurisdiction caseload is still as light as it is. In the appellate jurisdiction, the court has delivered about 140 judgments, but Justice Saunders said it has heard just a fraction of that number in original jurisdiction cases. He made the observation as he delivered a lecture entitled The Treaty of Chaguaramas, Conflicts and Contradictions for the Island State in Kingstown. The CCJ judge says the flow of cases that relate to the treaty which established the CARICOM is very sluggish.
I think many persons and companies who are prejudiced by the unlawful conduct of a member state still feel constrained to rely on the delinquent government for a host of things, from the expeditious and favorable processing of licenses to direct business opportunities. They prefer, therefore, to suffer in silence rather than risk displeasing the government and possibly losing business by bringing legal proceedings against it. Secondly, in the original jurisdiction, the court applies rules of international law, and the vast majority of lawyers in private practice are not experienced in this branch of the law. Many of them have never even read the treaty, and they're therefore unable or reluctant to advise their clients to institute cases in the original jurisdiction. Thirdly, the vast majority of CARICOM nationals are still ignorant about the treaty, about their rights that proceed from the treaty, and about the role of the court in vindicating those rights.
The legal fraternity in Trinidad and Tobago will vote on a motion of no confidence in the Chief Justice in 2 weeks. It's the latest development in the saga surrounding the appointment of former Magistrate Marcia Ayres Caesar to the High Court. We get more in this CNC3 report.
Come June 1st, close to 2,000 financial members of the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago will convene to decide whether as a body they have confidence in Chief Justice Ivor Archie. The association today served its members notice of the special general meeting set into motion with the petition signed by 62 of its members, including Alan Ram Logan, Martin Daly, Pamela Elder, and Israel Khan. According to the Legal Professions Act, just 25 signatures were necessary to get the bill ruling on the special meeting. The purpose, according to the Act, include maintain and improve the standards of conduct and proficiency of the legal profession, and to represent and protect the interests of the legal profession. There are several resolutions on the agenda for the June 1st meeting, and chief among them, a vote of no confidence in the Chief Justice in both his roles as head of the Judiciary and chairman of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission, a vote of no confidence in other members of the Commission, and a vote to call on their immediate resignations.
And coming up in Caribbean Newsline, the planned closure of a sugar estate in Guyana sparks protest action, and it's not just the workers. We'll tell you who else is involved after the break.
Your heart to the 21st edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival from the 22nd to the 24th of June, featuring Shabba Ranks, Ultimate Rejects, The Boozman, Mobado, Jack Pure, DJ Private Riot, and back together again, Square One. Also performing Third Word, Voice, King Mighty Chalk Dust, Credence Clearwater Revisited, Ed Robinson, Ricardo Drew, Tedison John, Felicia Ross, Brianna D, Lyrical, and Goo Goo Dolls. For more information, log on to www.stkitsmusicfestival.net.
Ready.
It's another episode when we out on the road. This is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out of drink, drink, drink.
King Baba and Nikita. Every fact that I go, you keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, cause that's my babe. I don't understand how wearing a name tag on me. Don't know what to say, you still calling me wrong name.
Don't get vexed with me. Don't say that.
Welcome back. In Guyana, sugar workers are protesting the closure of an estate, and they've been getting the support of people living in the surrounding community. Hundreds of residents joined workers at the Rose Hall estate Tuesday morning in a 4-mile march. It was one of the largest protests against the estate's closure, which government says will help save the industry. Residents and workers carried placards with messages indicating their concern about their livelihoods. Many of them fear that their community could find itself in economic ruin if the estate closes and workers are sent home.
You put the woman them who do things what they're not supposed to do. You put the frustrated men them. And let me tell you something, we gotta stay and fight. And we gotta continue to fight. Don't back out.
What we gonna do after them? We gonna thief? We gonna plan dope? Or what we gonna do? The policeman got more hard work to do. So asking the president to please interfere with this matter. And guys to go, the head of guys to go, please look into it. I'm begging you hard.
The working people of Kanji, the working people of Guyana are not going to tolerate nonsense. Your numbers here today prove that. Your numbers here today sends a strong message. Let them know that this struggle is going to continue until victory.
And while the workers and residents want government to reverse its plan, an economist and former presidential advisor is urging it to speed up the closure of sugar estates. Ramon Gaskin says the government shouldn't wait until December, but should close them immediately. Since taking office, the David Granger administration has pumped $32 billion into the struggling sugar industry. And Gaskin says it's better to take the money and create alternative jobs for sugar workers. We get the details in this report from Royden James of HGP Nightly News.
Radical political commentator and economist Raymond Gaskin is urging the government to move as swiftly as possible to close the sugar estates, which are slated to be closed in December of this year. Gaskin's argument is the same monies the government will be using to further bail out the industry until December could be used to help train workers who would be displaced.
You will listen to me carefully and record me carefully. They should close it now and take the money that will be wasted from now to December when they plan to close it, and take that money, which is about $8 billion, and create alternative jobs for the workers.
2 weeks ago, the government presented a white paper in the National Assembly which made clear its position on the way forward with regards to the sugar industry. In the view of Mr. Gaskin, the white paper lacked vital information.
The white paper, the so-called white paper, is about 4 pages long, a 4-page thing. There got nothing in it. It's not solid. And it explains why they have to close the estate. But it doesn't tell you what they plan to do with the workers. 10,000 workers are going to be dislocated as a result of this downsizing of Gaitsuko.
Mr. Gaskin, who served as presidential advisor to President Chadi Jagan, noted that this particular issue should not be a political one, and therefore he said that the antics of GAU and the opposition on this issue will continue to fail.
The union is very lackadaisical and delinquent in representing its people. You hearing me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very delinquent in representing its people. All they keep saying to the government is, keep the thing open, keep all these estates open, and keep paying them $1 billion. Which is a lot of nonsense, is not sustainable. The government has told them that it is not sustainable. Everybody knows it's not sustainable, but GAU and the PPP cannot come up with anything that makes sense.
Gaskin said, too, that the government's suggestion to rent land to persons after putting them on the breadline is unconscionable. He thinks displaced sugar workers should be granted lands to make a living.
A three-day meeting of the United Nations Special Committee on Decolonization, or the C24, opened in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Tuesday. The committee, which was established by the United Nations General Assembly in 1961, is devoted exclusively to the issue of decolonization. At the opening ceremony, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves spoke about the relevance of the committee, noting that since 1990, only Namibia and East Timor have gained independence. But the Vincentian leader pointed to an even starker reality, and that's right here in the Caribbean. The CMC's Kenton Chance has that story for us.
Minister Gonsalves spoke of the important role of the United Nations in the decolonization process, noting, however, that only 2 countries have gained independence since the 1990s. He warned against being too self-congratulatory. Dr. Gonsalves did not need to go outside the Caribbean to illustrate his point.
Still within our region, I think it is true to say that it is the region in the world with the most territories still under colonial overrule, in whatever form. And I don't have to list the territories, but we know that there are British and French and American and Dutch colonies. The French, of course, wouldn't consider Martinique and Guadeloupe, for example, to be colonies. They see them as part of France.
Prime Minister Gonsalves spoke about the important role of dialogue between territories and their colonial powers. However, he said that colonial powers are inclined to reject any outcome of such a seminar if it is not in their interest.
So whatever paper which we produce, if they're not shown to be within the interests of persons, they would just be ignored. Not burnt, but ignored. And it can only be ignored against the weight of international opinion if you have coercion.
During his extemporaneous speech, Dr. Gonsalves asked foreign affairs officials in Kingstown to excuse him for not reading the script they had prepared for him. He said he has been around long enough to know that there is a lot of diplomatic speak at such events.
It is better to speak sharply, to the truth that we understand it, than to shoot sharply.
The seminar is being held under the theme, Future for Decolonization in the Non-Self-Governing Territories, What Are the Prospects? Kenton Chance, CMC News, Kingstown, St. Vincent.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, the WICB could come under some pressure from the India Cricket Board. We'll tell you why when we return. Stay with us. Chatting CARICOM, a 4-part series on the status of the regional integration process. Your chance to get answers.
We as a small island, how do we factor into that bigger picture?
Why is the process taking so long?
While there is liberty to move among the islands, we still have some level of restriction.
Chatting CARICOM also gives you updates on recent CARICOM projects.
We're seeking more and more to engage all our partners in moving forward for the development of our region.
We have come a very long way since the start.
Join the Caribbean community and CaribVision for Chatting CARICOM, a community for all. May 31st at 8 p.m.
The Sajiko Cahill School of Business and Management invites you to attend Navigating a Path to Growth, a risk and competitive intelligence conference at Hilton Barbados Resort on June 26th and 27th, 2017. Speakers include Global Strategy and Risk expert Dr. Andrea Schotter, Regional PwC Risk Assurance Leader Bruce Scott, Miss Lisa Padmore, Dr. Delisle Worrell, Mr. Ian D'Souza, Professor Patrick Hossain, Professor Julian Marcel, and many others. For more information, call 246-424-7731 or visit www.uwichsb.org. Secure your space today.
Follow your heart to the 21st edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival from the 22nd to the 24th of June, featuring Shabaranks, Ultimate Rejects, Biboozman, Mobado, Jack Pure, DJ Private Riot, and back together again, Square One. Also performing Third World, Voice, King Mighty Chalk Dust, Credence Clearwater Revisited, Ed Robinson, Ricardo Drew, Teddyson John, Felicia Ross, Brianna D, Lyrical, and Goo Goo Dolls. For more information, log on to www.stkitsmusicfestival.net.
Factions of the Indian Cricket Board, the WICB, want pressure brought to bear on the West Indies Cricket Board for its lack of support in the recent vote regarding the International Cricket Council's new governance structure and revenue sharing model. At an ICC board meeting in Dubai last month, the BCCI found itself standing alone as 9 other countries voted in support of the new structure. On the contentious revenue sharing model, India found support only from the Sri Lankan board as they lost the vote 8-2. Sections of the BCCI now want Joint Secretary that's Chaudhry to speak to WICB President Dave Cameron about the recent ICC vote, as there's a belief the Caribbean board was not held accountable enough for the decision to abruptly abandon the tour by the one-day side 3 years ago. The BCCI suspended bilateral ties with West Indies and also lodged a multi-million-dollar claim against the WICC back in November in 2014 after the team walked off the tour as a result of a pay dispute with the board. However, the matter was settled amicably following talks between the WICB and the BCCI, with the entities agreeing to future bilateral tours. Legendary former fast bowler Sir Curtly Ambrose has urged West Indies to use the disappointment of missing out on next month's ICC Champions Trophy to return to the top of world cricket. The tournament, referred to as the Mini World Cup, features the world's top 8 cricket sides, with West Indies missing out on the June 1 to 18 showpiece in England due to their number 9 ranking. Sir Curtly, who up until last year served as a bowling consultant to West Indies, believes consistency is the big hurdle the region side has to overcome. This year already, West Indies have lost 5 of their 6 one-day internationals, with 5-match series against India and England to follow by the end of September. And from the pitch to the track, June 15 is the day embattled Jamaican athlete Khalees Spencer will know whether she can continue to compete in international events. That date was set after an anti-doping hearing ended on Tuesday. Spencer, the 2014 Commonwealth Games 400-meter hurdles champion, is accused of refusing to submit to a drugs test after being approached by a Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission officer last April. As we hear in this report, her attorney Paul Green is hoping for a positive outcome.
In 90 minutes of cross-examination of Khalees Spencer, who was giving evidence for the second straight day, Jadco's attorney Laxton Robinson tried to establish inaccuracies in the hurdler's witness statement. This relating to the April 27, 2016 date in question, when Spencer was alleged to have evaded or refused to provide a sample for testing to Jadco at the Stadium East track. Robinson also insisted that Spencer's coach at the time, Bertrand Cameron, who also took to the witness stand, had advised her that Jadco's team had selected her for testing. But the hurdler insisted she only spoke with her coach and friend of 12 years, Christine Day, about their then upcoming competitions at the Drake and Penn Relays in the USA. Spencer also revealed that Jadco officials usually approached her directly during her 1-hour whereabouts window for her to sign the notification form for testing. Spencer's representative, American attorney Paul Green, who objected on a number of occasions to Robinson's line of questions, established in redirect that Spencer did not intentionally try to deceive the Kent-Gammon chaired panel or JADCO in her written statement.
All of them admitted under oath, Mr. Brown, Mr. Kerry Brown, Tashay Smith, and Wilbert Rowe, who was called as somebody who was there from JADCO, all admitted that she was never notified under the WADA International Standards under Article 5. Notification is when the period begins when the athlete is required to remain for testing. They all admitted she was never notified by anyone from JADCO, and that was clear in their testimony.
Spencer revealed that after leaving Stadium East, her agent Marvin Anderson called her to say she needed to return to Stadium East for testing by JADCO. She said Anderson again called her to advise that she should go straight to JADCO's office instead. She said she did. Christine Day, Johnick Day, and Coach Bertrand Cameron all supported Spencer's claim. On Monday's first day of the hearing, 3 persons from JADCO, Executive Director Kerry Brown, Sample Collection and Testing Manager Tashay Smith, and Chaperone Wilbert Rowe, all testified. Green expressed satisfaction with the June 15 date set by the panel for the decision after only 2 days of the hearing.
The hearing is over and will be done on a timetable that would allow Ms. Spencer to come back and compete at Nationals and have a chance to go to Worlds, assuming we win. And even if we don't prevail, we would still have an opportunity to go to CAS and seek a stay that would potentially allow her to compete at Nationals also.
And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Ready. It's another episode when we out on the road. This is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road. Drink, drink, drink.
King Baba and the guitar. Every fact that I go, you keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, 'cause that's my bitch. I don't understand how wearing the name tag on me. You know what to say, you still calling me wrong name.
Don't get vexed with me. Don't say that.
Chatting CARICOM, a 4-part series on the status of the regional integration process. Your chance to get answers.
We as a small island, how do we factor into that bigger picture?
Why is the process taking so long?
While there is liberty to move among the islands, you still have some level of restriction.
Chatting CARICOM also gives you updates on recent CARICOM projects.
We're seeking more and more to engage all our partners in moving forward for the development of our region.
We have come a very long way since we started.
Join the Caribbean community and CariVision for Chatting CARICOM, a community for all. May 31st at 8 p.m.
So we've got the fleet sailing through here. They're obviously going downwind a bit. You can see the spinnakers up, boats moving along. It is the best place to learn how to sail. We've got nice waters and everything here, well protected, and it's great for racing as well. The farther offshore you get, the bigger the waves and the more seas they have and the more wind. It's great for dinghy racing here in Carlisle Bay.
Again, the major developments of this day, more stringent building restrictions coming for Jamaicans as flooding causes millions of dollars in damage. And in sport, factions of the Indian Cricket Board want the West Indies Cricket Board to be put under pressure for its lack of support in the recent vote on the ICC's new governance structure and revenue sharing model. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, log on to CarnaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good night.